Hi, everyone. It's Sarah No Support Workers podcast. Today, I've got you, yours. I'm so excited
Yeah.
because you're like a bundle of joy, and I cannot wait to talk about all things that you're up to. So, just to give the audience a bit of a taster, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I am Yos. Some people might know me from LinkedIn as the Youth Mentor Queen. I gave myself that title. So, yeah, I do. I am the founder and director of Supporting Communities Australia, which is an NDIS registered provider that specializes on supporting youth with disability and trauma backgrounds. I have an extensive background in the out-of-home care and disability sector. I was a youth worker for almost 8 years, working on the floor before I decided to step into my own business, which is the same thing that I've been doing for many years, because I wasn't happy how care is being done for youth, because we do a lot of, let's just do it for them, it's easier. And I actually feel like we're not doing them any favors by doing things for them. And that's how my whole business model came about, which is all about capacity building for young people with disabilities and trauma backgrounds.
To get into youth in particular, because that's quite a niche area, and not everyone can do well.
Yes. Actually, it was a funny story because I feel like the job found me instead of me finding the job. I came to Australia in 2016. I am originally from Venezuela, and back home, I studied criminology. I did a little bit of work in the prison system, and back then, I was very young. Back then, I used to think that my impact in the life of the people that have already been involved in the youth system was very small. And then back then, I used to think if I can get them early, my contribution to their lives can be so much more than getting them after they already gone to prison. But back then, I didn't continue doing that type of work. I went on a completely different industry. I had a little business where I was designing clothes and making clothes. And I came to Australia trying to pursue that. But then in here, those opportunities didn't become to fruition. And then when it was time for me to decide whether if I wanted to stay or leave, it was like, okay, there is an opportunity for you if you go on to disability, mental health precisely. You can stay in the country, continue your studies, and get a good job, build a career around it. That's how I came to disability. I was a disability support worker, but I was basically doing all mental health. I was doing community participations for participants that were in hospital, participants that were getting out of prison, like really complex clients. And those were my very first jobs in the disability industry here in Australia. Then I got a job working with a big national non-for-profit in the residential area. So it was a SEAL program. And it was for younger adults that were exiting out of home care onto supported independent living. That was my first contact with the youth because the participants in that particular setting were 18 years old. They had just come out of youth services. And I loved it with them. Then within that same organization, I got sent to another house where the kids that were there, had disabilities, but they were still underage. So they were like 16 years old. And then I was like, yes, I love this. I love that I could work with the teenagers. I didn't need to be serious. I didn't need to pretend to be a grown up. I could be myself. And the kids loved that. And I was able to make really good rapport with the young participants I had at that point. And then after that, it was like all I wanted to do, work with kids. And then I only pursued youth worker jobs. And I was working mainly with intensive therapeutic care, which is the most complex young people that you can find around. And yeah, they all have disabilities. So I worked a lot with all psychosocial disabilities, intellectual, neurodivergent kids, like all of those diagnoses that come along with a history of trauma, because a lot of the kids that we were caring for, they have been removed since they was little from home due to disabilities, addiction, incarceration. So I did that. That's how I work with the young people. It is a difficult job, but at the same time, if you teach those kids even the smallest thing, you know how that is going to impact their lives. You really, and it's very tangible. It's something that you invest a little bit of time, and it's like putting a seed.
Yep.
And then after a couple of years, you see those kids and they're doing so much better. It's just a feeling that, in my opinion, has no comparison, because it makes me so happy to see when they learn and when I can see them improving, because you really can see improvement in a young person. You can find a young person that comes at the age of 12, very complex, and in the span of 1 year, you see them progress
Yeah.
a lot. With good supports, you really see that. So that's what I love.
So if we could go back just a little bit, if I hope you don't mind, when you started as a support worker, can you remember a story without breaking anyone's confidentiality that hits home and you're like, you know what? I have arrived. This is exactly where I need to be.
I don't remember as a moment in that stage, in those stages. I remember a family. I was supporting one particularly. I was supporting a mom. She was in her 40s. She was a survivor of DV. She had severe mental health, and all of her kids have been removed from her because of her disabilities. I remember supporting her to have family contact with her child and seeing her, how I was seeing her home every day, and seeing her in the community, in the family contact that she had with that kid. I was like, okay, this is not an easy job, but this is something that people need. And for that particular woman, her kids was the only thing that was keeping her alive, because all of her life was quite devastating. Her mental health, her trauma, her physical health, even. She was in chronic pain all the time. But being able to support that space for her to have her contact with her younger son was like, yeah, I was that person that was able to facilitate that in that moment, and it made me happy. So I sticked around, even though she was very difficult to work with, but we had good moments as well.
So you have worked for two big organizations, and I'm going to name drop them. You had Wesley Mission and the Salvation Army. Your time there, how did that shape you into the leader that you are today?
Actually, my first contact with the youth was with Wesley Mission. It was that particular job. And I can say that those two very early jobs gave me most of what I have today. So I worked with the Salvation Army before I worked with Wesley Mission. So with the Salvation Army, I was in a homeless shelter in the city of Sydney. It's called
Yep.
Foster House. It's a big foster. It's a big homeless shelter for male
Yep.
adults. And in that particular job, I learned a lot about systems because I was quite new. I didn't know how to use all of this software that they use for reporting. I learned how to do intakes because that particular shelter had two settings. It had a overnight setting, which we would have to admit the homeless people for the night. They came over, they lined outside, so we needed to do intakes. We would start the intakes at 4 p.m. And when the beds were full, that was it. We had a full house. So that allowed me to do intakes, to learn systems. Basically, that's what that job gave me. Learning how things were done here, doing referrals. We did a lot of phones, which I'm terrified of answering the phone, to be quite honest with you. Back then, my accent was even thicker. Back then. So I was terrified of answering the phone because nobody could understand me when I was on the phone. So I actually learned how to pick up calls with that job. And I thank that job for that. Because when I was in the front desk, if that phone rang, I had to pick it up. And I had to give a referral. If we couldn't, like, for example, we used to get a lot of referrals in that particular homeless shelter. We used to get a lot of calls from women with kids looking for a bed for the night, but that was a shelter only for men. So we needed to refer them on. So I had to do a little bit of that when I was answering the phones. So yeah, with Wesley Mission, it was learning the systems and learning how to do intakes and referrals. So that kind of gave me, like, coming back to your question, the leader that I am today. At that point, I understood that we cannot serve everyone because that particular shelter was for one service, for one audience. And whatever
Was
we
that
didn't do,
Yep.
sorry?
Was that hard to turn people away? Because I could imagine it really would play with your heartstrings, especially if all the
Yes,
beds were full.
it was hard, but it was very firm boundaries. There was no place to wiggle. So we had a list of places that we could refer depending on the needs. Like if it was a woman with a family, we would refer them to this shelter. If it was a younger person, same Salvation Army had a shelter for youth. So if the person that was coming in, we couldn't house them, we would send them to the youth service, which was like very close by. It was still in the city area, but it was a different space. So that taught me that we cannot serve everyone, but then we can have somebody in our network that's going to be able to serve them. Those were my first interactions with that. And I have everything to thank to Wesley Mission. The manager that hired me there, he's my boss again because I'm training to be a positive behavior support practitioner. And he kind enough to take me under his wing because he's a behavior support practitioner. And he was the hiring manager with Wesley Mission. I had not had a job in residential care at that point. And he interviewed with me and he said the words that he said to me many times after that. He said to me, if nobody gives you an opportunity to get started, how are you going to get started? And I know that he lives by that because this same person has hired a friend of mine that I recommended saying, she's keen to work. Can you give her a chance? And he said, yes. As long as they can do the job, I am willing to take the risk of hiring them even without experience. That happened maybe 4 years ago. My friend still works for him.
Yeah.
2 years ago, I heard that he was hiring, and I said, look, my sister's looking for work. She doesn't have a lot of experience. And he said, yes, have her send me her resume. He hired my sister. My sister works for him too. So it's about that giving somebody an opportunity because you never know if they're going to be great. But if nobody opens the door for them, how are they going to be great? So I have a lot of respect for him. He's an NDIS provider in Melbourne. I could give him a shout out. His name is Ray Stacy, and he's the founder of Positive Care and Supports. He's really good for positive behavior support. So if anyone is needing, you can find him on LinkedIn and on his website. Yeah, so with Wesley Mission, that was my first connection to what the child care, no, not the child care, the child protection and the child protection system, how the kids were removed, how they were put in places in foster care. I never knew any of that because obviously in my country, we don't have that. So those were my first contacts, supporting young people when they were young adults because they were already 18, but they had exited out of home care or foster care, and they came on to disability services that were funded under the NDIS. So that was how I found my passion, Wesley Mission. So I have everything to thank that job for. They're
So
coming to
are they the reason why you started supporting Communities Australia?
no, not really. I would
Tell me.
think that I went on and I worked for another national non-for-profit that I'm not going to mention. They actually been fined by the NDIS. The biggest fine any company has received, it was them.
All right. We'll let the audience put
Well,
the puzzle together.
if they go to my LinkedIn, they're gonna know who I'm talking about. I resigned that job. I resigned that job after a lot of issues, a lot of things that were not sitting right, a lot of organizational changes. And yeah, that's when I said, okay, why do I keep pushing to change something that I cannot change? The organization is what it is. And I'm not gonna make them fit me, and I'm not gonna be able to bring my values and my vision to a national non-for-profit. It doesn't work like that. They do things the way that they're used to doing it, and they do things how they do things how they think they need to be done. Not necessarily how they should be done, but what works for them. So being there, I cannot say that I had a bad time. I worked for them for 5 years. I learned a lot. I supported many of young people, amazing young people. I saw the young people grow, transition to NDIS supports. We transitioned them beautifully. And I received a lot of training, specialized training to support youth which was great. Like they are good for that, for training the staff. And I love my job for most of it. For most of it, I really love
Yep.
working there.
But was there a moment you're like, right, there's so was it like when you were there, was there a moment you're like, right, this doesn't fit well. I can build it
Mm,
myself anyway?
yeah. It was towards the end of my past there. There was a lot of changes, so they merged twice in 1 year. So they merged the first time, and when they merged, when I first joined them, they had installed a new hierarchy where teams were sitting one on top of the other. So we were supposed to be side by side teams, which I really loved about the organization when I joined them. And I had a really good manager at that time. And he was actually a really amazing guy. He was very supportive of the whole team. We were a well-oiled machine. Everything worked because we were sitting side by side. A couple of years back, the organization merged, and that side by side hierarchy turned into a pyramid again, like from
Yeah.
the top, and then those in the bottom, which end up being
So
us, the support
yeah.
workers, are copying everything that we shouldn't be copying because we're not making decisions,
Yeah.
which is a really sad part.
Was it from that hierarchy that, that you talk of, the pyramid, that was like made you think as a founder, like I have to change because what's going on at the moment I'm not happy with, and therefore I can do it myself. So as a founder, what has been your hardest part from going from a support worker to a CEO? Because the shift's really quick.
Everything. I have to make decisions that I never had to before. And I also know if something goes wrong, I need to fix it. Whereas before, it was like, yep, my shift is finished. You'll see me next time. And I will just go. And that actually, Sarah, funny enough, I never took a managerial position when I was working for other people.
Pardon?
Not one. I never took a managerial position
Yeah.
in any of my jobs. Never. I never wanted it. I never wanted it because it was taking me away from what I loved, which was working with the kids. And then I used to think, why do I want to put myself in a position?
And that's really quite hard and difficult. I know that I really struggled with that as well because I picked this sector because I liked being around people, and the people that we served were my favorite people to be around. The banter is top notch. Like you're never going to find a funnier, down to earth bunch of humble people than working in this sector.
Yes. Look, I never wanted that. So I actively refused managerial position more than once, to be honest with you. I was like, why would I want that?
I can see now that you're quite big into the female founder space. That's a part that tickles your heart. What does it mean to you?
A lot of the times people think that you cannot be feminine and at the same time be smart and have a lot of opinions. And I like to disagree with that because I can still be a woman, I can still be feminine, I can still be soft, but I can also run a business. So I love that. I believe that not only in female empowerment, I empower everyone. And if anybody has seen my post on LinkedIn, they know that I even cheer for the freaking electrician when they finish the job. That was a true story. I was like, good job. And when I realized, I'm like, I apologize to the guy because I felt so embarrassed.
So, would you say that besides hyping up other people, what does good mentoring look like for you as a leader now? Mentoring people, not just the people that we serve, but other business owners like yourself.
Look, we have to be genuine. We have to be who we are. You cannot build rapport with somebody if you're being fake. So you need to, like, that's the one thing that I tell everyone, be yourself. And me, throughout the years, that has been my strongest tool to support young people and to guide them into learning how to make decisions, how to do their things, how to do life, just by being honest. And I always say, even if one day I recall precisely days where I was feeling a little bit sick, and the young people will come at me, oh, what is happening? Why do you look sad today? And I'd be like, no, I'm not sad. I'm just feeling a little bit sick. They can understand that. But
Yep.
if they come and tell me, you look a bit sad, and I tell them, no, I'm fine, they see right through it. So why not? I believe in brutal honesty. You need to own whatever it is that you're feeling. You cannot dump your personal life onto other people. But if you're not 100%, you can accept that. You're human. You don't have to be 100% every day. So I believe that to be probably number one. Be yourself at all
So a lot of
times.
the people that come into our sector, especially in youth, have been smacked down by a lot of different things across their life, right? How do you help young people build confidence and independence again?
It takes time. It takes a lot of consistency. You need to keep showing up even when it gets hard because they will push you away. They will hit you, call you names. They will do many of things to try to stop you from helping them because they don't trust people easily. So showing up is the first step. Continue. Even when they tell you, I don't want you here, you can step back and then come back again with a different approach or with a different strategy. And as they continue to see that they can't push you away, like you accept them however they come, whether they're happy, whether they're good, whether they're bad, whether they're sharing at you, you accept all of that. That helps them trust you and know that you're going to stick around.
Yeah.
And then when you get past that really difficult time, you can really, really hone into your relationship with that young person to help them. Because if they don't trust you, they're not going to listen to you. If they don't trust you, they're not going to believe that what you're telling them is valuable. I've supported young people who have had very difficult situations.
Yeah.
I've even been a witness for the police in a sexual assault case. That was a really difficult thing for me to do. For that young person, I was the first adult that she said what happened was to me.
So
That was
what makes, because you run lots of different youth programs with your company, and is it Elevate Youth Lab? Is that what you run?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yes.
What's the difference from other programs in the sector?
The Elevate Youth Lab, it's a model, not just a program. It's a capacity building model that is meant to be a wraparound service to support parents, carers, and guardians of youth of young people with disabilities and trauma backgrounds. So the Elevate Youth Lab has a few phases. It has the phase that faces the young person, which is how we support the young person. It has the phase of the training for the mentor, and it has the phase of the training for the parents. It has the phase of collaboration with the allied health. One thing that a lot of people don't do is they don't want to collaborate or they don't think it's necessary to collaborate. But I have experienced firsthand how we can help the young people progress, like really progress when we work alongside with OTs, for example. I believe a lot. I have a lot of faith in the work of the occupational therapists, and I have supported young people in their home settings to implement the OT plans and the day-to-day lives, and that is beautiful because they can do a lot of progress. Same with they having, for example, speech pathology, but then they need to come home and we need to continue prompting. Like if they're learning how to do the sentences, full sentences, when they come and say, "Me hungry," we are there and we're like, "I am hungry." They look at
Yeah.
you, they repeat back. If you do it only 1 hour a week or a fortnight or a month in the clinical space, you don't put in your reps. And for the young people to progress and to actually see change, they need to put in their reps. So that is what we do. We support the plans, the clinical plans in the day-to-day life. So what is different? We're intentional about a lot of things. It's not just, "Oh, I'm a cool lady. I'm gonna come and we're gonna hang out. I'm gonna go to the cinemas and you're gonna like me because I'm cool." No, I'm coming and everything that I'm doing is intentional. Everything has a purpose. How we relate is trauma informed, is theory based. The language that we use, the approaches that we take. Like it's not only let's go to the shops and buy some food. No, it's that we have a plan. If there is a goal and the goal is learn how to do my shopping independently, we prepare for the goal. We break it into what we need to learn to successfully do my shopping by myself later on in 2 years or when I turn 18. So we break all of that. What does that look like? What do you like to eat, for example? Or, I like to eat. We make a list. That is a skill that they're learning for when they become adults. How to budget. We go to the shop, we're looking at the prices. You are doing your shopping. You're putting your things in the cart with your list. And then if you have a budget, how do you work out your budget? So it's intentional. It's planned out. And what I have the most faith about is the fact that I am building systems so the work can be replicated and scaled without limit. So my ultimate goal is that my model can be licensed and global, because as youth workers, the trainings we receive to support young people, none of them are Australia based. They all come from the UK or they come from the United States. That's the training that we receive. Why is there no training designed by Australians? So I saw that lack, that really big gap. And I was like, why are we not doing this? And then I went and I put my researcher hat on and I started doing my research, implementing my scientific method that I learned when I went to uni. And I've been doing what it's called reverse engineered practical research. So I had the practice. I condensed my 8 years of experience and I started reversing it to explain it with theory that has been proven for 50 more years. And now what the stage that we're this point is collecting data, implementing the system so we can see what works, what needs improvement, so we can perfect the model and we can then replicate it. Continue training the mentors, parents, carers, whoever is caring for young people.
How do you get the support workers on board with you to have the same mindset as you? Like, how do you get
Look,
them on
I
board to
have,
really deep dive? Because there's been times that I've set something out and then they deviate from the plan.
look, at this stage, I am looking to hire some people. But the hires that I have are very close in my network. So I know they have similar values. So when I stepped into, okay, I'm going to do this business, I had these people already that I was like, okay, this is the people that I want. And they're the ones that I have now. But now I'm looking to increase to hire some people. But then I came up with an idea, like, how can I get them to do a buy-in? Like, not only come and do support work, because it doesn't work like that. I need to give them a buy-in so they can invest themselves in the business just like I am investing in them. So I prepared like a little pitch. So how I'm gonna get the support workers on board. So I'm offering a few things that I think are important as a support worker. What I want at this stage is to advertise matching. So let's say a support worker wants to join. We're going to promote that support worker based on the skill set, likes and dislikes. We're going to promote promote them in the local areas. So we can find participants for them that align with their own values, likes and dislikes, strengths as well. And they're going to be close to homes. In my opinion, if I was a support worker at this stage looking for a job, those would be the kind of things that I would look at. I want to be close to home. I want to be working with somebody that I'm going to enjoy working. And my boss is going to be cool, but I already have that one ticked. I am a cool boss. So that is what I am right now, because
Yeah.
I do need to start bringing people in. And you're 100% right. You see support workers that do not like to do support work. But then if they don't like support work, they can't be working with me because it doesn't add up.
With them, they'll start off well. And we've got a
Mm-hmm.
plan and we're all on board, but somewhere in between the plan and all being on board, there's a deviation. And I don't know whether it's because there's boredom or I think there's a couple of reasons. Either the plan that they've got is not working for the person we serve. There's boredom in the plan of delivering it, like they're living maybe Groundhog Day or something like that. Or it could be that they're just not that interested in the work that they do. I'm sure there's much more other explanations for it. But it does kill me a little when we deviate, especially when we put so much work into it to begin with. and then the
Yeah.
deviation kills it. Yeah.
I
So the
feel like
field we're
it has
in,
to
it's
be
not great.
down to, I don't know. I haven't had those type of experiences. I'm sure you've had plenty. Like, I'm in the early stages of the business, so I haven't actively hired yet. I'm looking at it right now. But I do know a lot of people, Sarah. So it's like, okay, I'll get this person that I knew from that job. I'll get them to work with because I've already worked with them. I already know them. And I can tell a good support worker from miles away. You smell them from afar. You're like, that's a good support worker. So I feel like I have a good instinct when it comes to that. So let's see if I have a good instinct when I have to hire 10 mentors too. So wait and see. Wait
We'll
and
have to do
see.
like a life update a year from now when you've hired your first couple of support workers.
I I came up with the idea of, okay, let's do this. And because if we promote the support worker, not my business, going to advertise this support worker is ready to serve a radius of 10 kilometers. So if the participant comes, it's going to be a participant that will want to work with that person because they already saw their face. They already saw what they're into. They already saw what their likes and dislikes are. So the person is going to come with a support worker in mind. So I'm going to start promoting my support workers because they're awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I feel like that is a good way of hooking them if they can work with people that they like. Because I can tell you that I stayed in jobs that I did not like. I stayed longer because of the participants that I was supporting.
What has been your proudest moment? Sorry?
My proudest moment, I would say having so many people, high up people, thinking that what I'm doing can be great. Because people that I consider admirable have told me, how do you come up with that idea? And I just did. And then when I came up with the idea and I started doing research and I was like, wait, nobody's doing this.
Yeah.
Not a soul has thought of this. And that alone was like, am I being delusional and it's something that cannot be done? But a lot of geniuses have been delusional in their time. So what makes me different to them?
I feel like all business owners are a little bit delusional.
You have to be, otherwise you don't get into business.
The hardest part is explaining something to somebody and they're never going to get it. Like it's not for them. Their mindset's not that way to think that way. So if you're not a little bit delusional, you'd never really have a business. That's what I think.
I think I'm a lot delusional, not just a little bit, because I did a bit of a rundown of the numbers, and I realized, like my North Star, the number that I came up with, and it actually was quite impressive, is that I can reach 300,000 young people in 50 years. Like from now
Say that again.
until before, I could reach 300,000 young people, 50 years, if I can make
Yeah.
the Elevate Youth Life work in 50 years. I'm not
Mm.
talking pay today. I'm talking how the model can support 300,000 young people in a span of 50 years. Not gonna be me personally, but if we start um, training mentors and then those mentors go on and support young people, indirectly, they don't have to continue be working with me, the mentors, but they go on to another job and they can still have that training that mentor had when they were working with me.
So
So my idea could reach and help 300,000 kids in 50 years.
well, you've already answered that question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What kind of team culture do you hope to build behind the scenes?
I was actually having a conversation with an organizational psychologist today about that specific topic. Because I had workplaces that were quite toxic and I learned what not to do. If you want to keep people happy, I have learned what not to do. And I feel like that gives me an edge because I already know what I would want to have in my workplace as a support worker or as a youth worker. You don't want a boss that's only seeing you for the job that for the work that you can do for them. You want a boss that's supportive. You want a boss that can check in on you. You want a boss that celebrates you because the worst thing and the most soul devastating thing that we have in our workplace is that we spend months, years supporting a young person or an adult. Nobody tells you anything. But the day that one thing goes wrong, that is the day that everyone in the organization is hitting your line. But they never picked up their phone to call you and ask you and tell you, hey, Yos, you did amazing last month. You didn't have an incident. Nobody does.
I agree 100% because kindness really doesn't cost anything. And telling somebody they do a good job really is less than a 2-minute conversation. The fact that you can only have a conversation when there's a problem or a bump in the road. Yeah, I always find that wild because I think if you treat the support worker really good, they go about and treat the person we serve even better. I'm not mathematical. I don't need to do any research on it. I've seen it multiple times. The more respected or valued a support worker comes along, everything else aligns. It's easier.
Yes.
The people we serve win.
What tell
That's
me,
what we want, isn't it?
when you were a support worker, Sarah, what did you want from your boss?
Me?
You wanted them to value you.
What did I want from my boss? I think for me it was I always wanted to learn. And I think that that's one of my biggest things is I wanted to learn as much as I could and to go to as much training as I could and just sink my teeth into much of experience that I could. That's what I really wanted from my boss as a support worker. Did I know it was going to end up where I am today? Absolutely not. Was it important to me back then? Absolutely, because I wanted to learn how to de-escalate a situation. I want to know how to, if there was a medical concern, how I could dive in and just, be as present as a support worker as possible. But I suppose with support workers, they're leading by example. So it's making sure, I think, even as us as leaders, that we do our self-check-ins and we lead by example.
Yeah. The most special and valuable things a boss has done for me in the past has been free. A call, a check-in. Doesn't cost anybody any money.
So, yeah.
It's free.
The
check-in, are
NDIS
you
have
okay?
made it harder. Like, don't get me wrong, it's harder to get training as a support worker than ever before. Before the NDIS, we didn't have to wait for somebody's plan to come in to go get training. You got the training because that was required of the organization that you work for. So as organizations with such, minimal margins, training isn't always the number one priority, which is sad, but I get it. But there's got to be better than what we've got currently.
I feel like there has to be a change. Like there's been so many changes with the NDIS that it's not going to be, I know the reason behind it. They need to cut costs. They've gone wild overboard. Expectations of the expense and the growth rate of the NDIS expenses. Like it's all understandable. But at the same time, you cannot go about it with less than the pay that needs to be done.
Yeah.
So definitely something's gotta change. Something's gotta give. I don't know what's gonna give,
100%.
but something got to give.
So, you know what? Oh my God. You know what I haven't done in this podcast so far? I realize I haven't asked you, where in Australia are you situated? You're in Sydney. And do you cater for like the city of Sydney or out of Sydney? Are you location based?
Yes. So I am in the Southwest Sydney. I'm in Liverpool, and my catchment areas are Southwest and Western Sydney. So from Blacktown to Penrith, all the way down to about Narellan. So I made like a radius of where I can reach. But obviously, as I start getting more mentors, I'll see which areas I can have like a little cluster that I can train the workers around there. Like I said, I want to promote the worker. Like this is the person that you're going to get. So we can get them work around their own area. So that's kind of like how I want to do it moving forward. But at this point, we're in Southwest, Liverpool and surroundings. Yeah.
So if anybody listening to the podcast wanted to reach out to you, is it better by website, email, LinkedIn? How's the best way to get into your vicinity?
I'm pretty active on LinkedIn and on my email. Weekdays, I reply to my emails at least every 48 hours. So if somebody wanted to reach me, I feel like the best way would be an email because it always has that urgency. So my email is info@supportingcommunitiesaustralia.com. And I'm always on the other end of the email. I don't have a VA or anybody answering. So it's always
It
me.
is I.
But I'm going to reply to everything. Also, LinkedIn is a platform that I'm active almost every day. Not all day, every day, but almost every day. So at least I will reply every day or every second day if I get a message through LinkedIn.
Is there any questions that I haven't asked you or talked about on this podcast that I need to bring up before we?
I don't know. I
You've
don't know.
done very well. Thank you so much for having me. As you know, as you
Thank you. Thank you